Hello, everyone, and welcome down to episode number 10 of the Down South Photo Show. We have hit double digits in quick time as well, I might add. This has been fun. We are at episode number 10. It's fantastic. My name's Brendan Waits. My good mate Cam Blake has joined us as always down in sunny Hobart Town. Good evening, Cameron.
Good evening, Brendan. How are you going? It's not so sunny today. It's a bit windy and a bit cold. And yes, 10 weeks, 10 episodes. Who'd
have thought?
We are just blazing away here.
We are. It's been great. Thoroughly enjoyed myself so far since we came up with this wacky idea to make a podcast dedicated to landscape photography. It's been fun so far.
Yeah, I'm loving it. It's good. And it sounds really corny, but I actually look forward to this every week, having a chat with you and just putting some ideas out in people's heads and getting a conversation starting amongst people. I look forward to it each week. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. Thanks to everyone.
Not corny at all, mate. It's great. It's been a good. It's been a bit of a distraction with all the COVID malarkey going on all around the country.
COVID? What's this COVID you speak of?
Yeah, exactly. And it's been a good something different for me to get my teeth into. So I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Just quickly speaking of the COVID dramas going around the country, once again, we say hello and best wishes to everyone who are in lockdown at the moment. I think we've got about 13 million Australians under lockdown at the moment, including Sydney, obviously, all the dramas that are going on in Sydney still. And unfortunately, our brothers and sisters in Melbourne have just copped another 7 days extension to their lockdown. So sorry to hear that, guys. That's why I've decided to leave my Melbourne background on this week. We're with you.
Yeah. And like I said, 13 million, that's a lot of people. If we could get like 10% of them listening to our show in lockdown, I reckon we could hang the boots up and wouldn't have to work anymore. It'd be pretty good. But it's not all about us. It's about everyone else. But yeah, it must be really shattering for some people because it's just a Groundhog Day. So, keep your mental health well and keep yourself occupied and get some fresh air and get some sunshine, play some games, do something that you might not normally do. Enjoy yourself as much as you can, and hopefully the pain and suffering is over really quick and you can come back and visit Brendan down in regional Victoria, or you can pop on a plane and come over to my boring little place over here in Tasmania.
Yeah, it's so boring, mate. I don't know how you put up with it.
Yeah, it's tough.
Thank you to everyone for subscribing. We passed a tiny little milestone during the week of 150 subscribers. Which is awesome. Like we're wrapped that 150 awesome. Of you have chosen to subscribe. If you haven't hit the subscribe button down below, it's completely free to subscribe. We're not going to charge you anything. It just means when you become a subscriber and hit the little bell that you'll be notified when our videos go up onto the YouTube channel. And of course, if you're listening to this on a podcast, you can subscribe via your favorite podcast supplier as well.
I was actually reading quickly some of the comments on our podcast. There's people putting reviews in there. And there was a couple of funny reviews in there and some really, really good ones. So I like the reviews. The reviews not only just help our show get noticed and get up the charts a bit more, so to speak, but it also gives us some good feedback and, there's things we can improve on, or, you want us to talk more about this and less about that, or whatever it might be. So keep them coming. And thank you to the 150 subscribers. Keep it growing. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I enjoy reading the comments as well, because you're right, it does give us a bit of direction and we like to talk about what you guys want us to talk about. So by all means, keep the comments coming. We're going to crack on with tonight's subject. We thought we would open the can of worms that is drone photography tonight. It's an interesting topic, and mainly because I love it. I absolutely love my drone and love drone photography. I think, I don't know, because we haven't really prepped each other on this, but I think Cam might have a few differing opinions on that. Would I be right?
Yeah. Look, in our little show notes, I said the drones, they're the good, the bad, and the ugly, because I think they have really good things about them, and they also have really bad things and ugly things. So I'm a bit of a fence sitter. I'm a sort of 50-50 lover or hater of them. So, but I'm sure we'll get into that as we get into this topic. That's for sure.
Well, we'll kick the conversation off with just a wee bit of history about, my involvement with drone photography, but drone photography in general. It's really been the last, I want to say 5 years where it's, pardon the pun, really taken off, drone photography, due to the just wild advancements in the technology. I know most people who either own a drone or have looked at buying a drone have come across the DJI brand, absolutely dominating the drone market worldwide. There's a lot of companies out there trying to, or have tried and failed, or are still trying to push into the drone market, but DJI just generally are 2-3 moves ahead and come out with just mind-blowing technology on their drones.
They do.
And the we'll talk a bit about the first drone that I owned, which was, I started with the DJI Phantom 4. And the reason I held out until the 4th iteration of that particular drone was because that was the first drone that came out with a 20 megapixel. I think it's a 1/2-inch sensor.
Yeah, I think it was a similar sensor to the Olympus sensor that's in the Micro Four Thirds. I think similar size. So,
I think prior to the Mavic 4, it was the Micro Four Thirds setup, and then after that they went to the 1/2-inch sensor, which, as I say, was a 20 megapixel. But it was also the first sort of, I say, like, cheaper drone. There was still $3,500, but it was the first sort of cheaper drone that allowed me to shoot RAW as well on a 20 megapixel thing. So for me, it was all about the camera and the optics and what that delivered, and then being able to take that camera and pretty much put it wherever I wanted to put it, within a landscape. So for landscape photographers, well, for me, it was right up my alley. I really, really liked the whole idea of being able to take a camera and put it pretty much anywhere. And I think for me, it was, not so. A lot of people would get a drone, and the first thing they do is shoot it to its highest sort of legal limit, and we'll talk about legalities and stuff a little later, but its highest legal limit, which is a 400 foot height, and start taking photos, which is great. But for me, I thought it was unreal to be able to stick a drone, a meter above a wave, for example, offshore. I mean, how cool is that? I'm
the same. Like my first drone, I went a little bit stupid. I generally go a bit excessive with some things. I went to the other end, and
unlike you, Cam,
unlike me, I know. I actually was lucky enough to I got paid a job. I did a book, and I got commissioned to do this book, and I used the proceeds out of this book to buy a drone. I thought I was really interested in drone photography, and I hadn't really got into it. Instead of buying one of those little Dick Smith ones that you can just smash into the walls and go back and buy another one, I went and bought like one of the top end DJI Inspire drones. And the reason what drove me to that drone, exactly the same reason you said as well, mate, is that it was all about the camera. And that one had the gimbal, and it could take the Micro Four Thirds lenses. So I could put majority of my Olympus smaller lenses on the bottom of that drone. So, and I remember the first time I got it out of the box, it was at Mum and Dad's house because I bought it in Melbourne. And I launched it in the front yard, and I was packing my pants. Even it only went a meter up in the air, and I was just expecting it to take off left, right, and center and go take someone's head off. But same thing. First thing I did was sort of take it out of the box, go up a bit, and then have a see what the limits were and things like that. But I backed off that. I had it for a few years, and I backed off and got smaller and smaller and smaller. And now I believe we're both using the same drone at the moment.
We are, but we'll come to that in a second, because similar experience from me when I got my first drone. Very, very excited. The Phantom 4 Pro. Launched it in the backyard. Without a lot of thought, just got it out of the box and went, okay, this all works. And of course, got it in the air, got it about a meter off the ground, and then my dog tried to jump up and grab it. Didn't even think about something like that happening. No. So I very quickly got that up and out of his way. But that sense of it's almost a little bit of panic that comes over you when you get your drone in the air for the first time. And, one thing that I loved about, from pretty much the Phantom 4 onwards, was just how easy they are to fly. People who crash a drone are people who have done something wrong.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned crashing. My older brother, Chris. Hey, if you're listening, there he is.
Chris.
He rang me the other day and said, I'm looking to buy a drone. What should I get? I'm like, DJI, just go, whatever. He's like, I'm looking at this Google. There's a Google one, I think it was. And I'm looking at this one. I'm like, oh, look. He goes, I don't have the money to spend. It's just a bit of a muck around thing. I want to try it out and have a bit of fun. I'm like, yeah, cool, whatever. Anyway, he rang me the other day. He got the drone. He goes, "Oh, I got it out of its case and I launched it in my driveway," because everyone just launches at their house.
That's right.
And I said, "Did you crash it yet?" And he goes, "Yep, straight into the top of the tree next to the garage." and he goes, "It broke a couple of propeller blades, which there were spare ones in the box." And straight away, I'm like, "Does it have like accident prevention?" He's like, "No, it doesn't have that one." And I'm like, "There you go."
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's the thing. You can, and I think this will lead us down into this topic as we get into it. It is extremely easy for anyone with zero experience to pull a drone out of a box, launch it in your front or backyard or in your house, as people sometimes do as well, and get it in the sky. Like it is idiot proof to get it up there. And I think that's one of the to me, it's one of the ugly sides of how easy they are to fly, which encourages people who probably shouldn't be flying drones. It gives them a bit of a Dutch courage to sort of get out there and fly it when they shouldn't be. But again, we'll get into that as we go along.
Yeah, I happen to, for those of you watching the video,
you just pulled a drone out of Fed Square.
I did. I just reached into Fed Square in the background. Yeah. So this is really poor because it's going to fade in the background. But this is my DJI Mavic 2. So I'll just pop that front off there. So there's its awesome Hasselblad camera.
Hasselblad. I've got the Hasselblad camera.
That's right. Hey, it says Hasselblad like right on the front there. So right, so it is, isn't it? It must be.
Must be. Yeah. Of course.
So this little puppy.
We're not sponsored by Hasselblad either, but honestly,
nor DJI for that matter. But this has been awesome. This thing, and the thing I love about it is the fact that it will fold up into bugger all. Like I'm very, very poorly demonstrating here.
Yeah.
Here we go. So it folds up into nothing. You don't have to take the props off or anything like that.
Yeah.
I'm just holding it in front of myself so it doesn't blend into the background.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that thing there, which you can see is not much bigger than my hands.
So it's probably they're probably the same size as about like a 750 ml 1 litre bottle of water.
That's
they're
right.
really quite small for people who aren't visual.
Yeah, who can't see what we're talking about. And I absolutely love the fact that I can chuck that in, a fairly small backpack, take it anywhere. And the other great thing about the current lineup, particularly the Mavic, is just how quickly I can get that thing in the air.
Yes.
So it's really about 45 seconds, I suppose, from power up to launch is about 45 seconds. So and I really, really enjoy having that. And it's got the most stable gimbal on the front of this thing as well. So I've actually had this on relatively calm days. I've actually been able to pull like 2-second exposures out of this thing while it's up in the sky, which is pretty nuts. But also because it's got that fantastic 20 megapixel sensor in it as well, I can do big enlargements out of this guy as well. So
that was something I was going to touch on with you, because you're the printer out of this podcast. Is that's the one thing why, again, the good, the bad, and the ugly of drones. This sort of goes into almost the bad category for me, is that you are quite limited to how big you can blow up these images out of drones. Now, I've seen some pretty big images of Tom Putt, who's a professional photographer in Mornington. He has a gallery, and he's got some very big framed shots from drones, and he swears by them. And he has a similar drone to us. He swears by them that says he can go quite big with them. But whenever I've tried to do a big print out of it, I'm just never 100% satisfied with the quality of the print that comes out of these drones. They're good for us up to a certain size, and that'll be a question you can maybe answer. What do you think the maximum size of a print you can do out of a drone is? Because I find anything sort of over, 16 to sort of 16 inch or bigger, to me, they start to fall away a bit. But what do you think?
Well, like every print that I ever make, I always talk about correct viewing distance, and we've had this conversation on the podcast before. Now, I've done prints out of that very drone there and my Phantom 4 2 meters wide by 1 meter high. So absolutely massive. However, I will put a caveat on that and say that I did use obviously Photoshop to do the enlargement, and then using software like Gigapixel as well to enhance that as well.
You've upscaled them.
Yeah, I've had. I've not every time. It also depends on the image. If there's a lot of detail in the image, for example, I've got a photo which I will put up on the screen now of the Barwon Heads bridges that I took quite some time ago with the Phantom 4. It is now jostling for position as my best-selling local image.
Right.
It was just a random May sunrise. I went out with the drone and it was a beautiful sunrise, got this shot. But there's a fair bit of detail in it. There's cars on the bridge. You can see a bit of detail there. So I did need to do a bit of enhancement on that. However, most of the time when I make that image large, it's printed on canvas.
Yeah.
And canvas is that textured surface, which can be quite forgiving. Now, if I was printing on even just a smooth pearl, Ilford smooth pearl, for example, you're exactly right. Probably a 20 by 30 inch enlargement before I had to do any work on it to make it look a little sharper. But then again, put it behind glass, correct viewing distance, you can get away with quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Like there's definitely tools in the trade now that you can actually upscale things. It's just for me, I've always found that I get to a point where like, it's a great shot or it's a really interesting shot, but any bigger than a certain size, and I personally sort of not lose interest, but I lose a bit of appreciation for it because the sensors are still so relatively small in them. But I must admit, the Mavic 2 Pro that I've got is a big improvement. Like you said, it's one of those ones you can just chuck up anywhere you want. You're driving along, you're like, oh, okay, that's a shot. I can get that up there and get it in the sky. And I think one thing that you touched on before about just people sending drones straight up as high as they can. I'm a bit like you. I would rather take a drone shot from 2-3 meters above my head, not 30 or 40 meters or even more, because any higher than that, you sort of get that bird's eye view. But in between is just that angle that you can't get any other way. You can't get it on a ladder. You can't get it, on a building, it's sort of that mid-range. And I find that those ones anywhere from sort of 50 to 100 meters or something like that, or lower, you get some really cool angles. So that's what I like them for.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Point Lonsdale jetty out here, having the drone literally just 10 meters off the end of the jetty, but only so 10 meters off the end of the jetty and maybe 10 meters high.
Yeah.
That is a unique angle that 5 years ago you would need ridiculous permits. You'd have to get a helicopter. You'd have to get airspace clearance, the whole bit.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's completely revolutionized. And I think for me, they came along at a good time for me because I've been doing it for quite a while. And of course, something new and a new tool. I'm very cautious not to call it a toy. It's a tool, right?
Yeah,
a tool of the trade, and it's sort of it inspires. It gives you a new lease on life. It's like that photo that you always wanted to take. Well, now you can.
Yeah.
So that's what I really enjoy with when I get my drone out. Unfortunately, as with everything of late, I haven't been able to do enough of it. So I'm keen to get back out there with that thing.
Well, that's a great little segue into the next part of our little discussion about drones and getting out there and using them. And where you can use them and how you can't use them and how people use them today. So this is where, to me, sometimes falls into the ugly category. So far I've said there's a few bad things. There is some really good things, such as getting access to locations that you can't get to, getting angles that you can't possibly get, getting those bird's eye shots straight down that you can't get unless you're in a plane or a chopper. So there, don't get me wrong, there is a hell of a lot of benefits to drones, and I love the technology and I love the use of them. But what gets me is the ugly side of things. And I think down here in Tasmania, we see it really, really frequently because Tasmania is about 70% national parks and reserves. And as per national park rules, you can't fly your drone in any national parks or reserves managed by Parks and Wildlife here in Tasmania. And that rule just seems to be written in some special invisible lemon juice that no one sees because everyone flies them everywhere in national parks. So that to me is the ugly side of things, is that there is a lot of, and it's like the virus that's going on with the lockdowns at the moment. There's a small minority doing the wrong thing, making the majority look bad. And I went from flying my drone quite a lot all around Tasmania to barely flying it at all anymore. And I will not fly it around where there's people. I won't fly it in national parks. So it's really quite limited where you can legally fly drones down here. So, and that's the ugly thing for me, is that there's some people, I'll do workshops at Dove Lake, we'll have this beautiful morning or beautiful sunset. Everyone's just quiet, taking it in, as we've spoken about before, just taking that moment in, and then you'll just hear this bzzz, and it won't be 200 meters above your head. It'll be a meter above your head, someone drag racing a drone around the national park, and it just ruins it for everyone else. And and then they make the rules harder and harder and harder because of these people. So
Yeah, no, you're exactly right, and it's like most things in life, the few people that choose to ignore the rules ruin it for everyone else.
Yeah,
so it's a real bummer.
And they don't have license plates, the drones.
No, that's right.
So it is hard to regulate them. And I know, like I went and did recently. I've got my REPL license, so the recreational pilot's license. I did a 3-day course and spent a lot of time and money getting that done. I'm registered with CASA, as you're required to do as well. And I also have a commercial license to do video and filming in all national parks in Tasmania. Having said that, I still need to apply for a permit, which they give out rarely, to use my drone in a national park. So
each time that you want to do it, you mean?
Yeah, each time. If I want to do a flight in a national park, last time I checked, it was about $300 per permit per flight.
Yeah, right.
So it becomes a really expensive exercise, where some people just come in under the cover of tourists and just chuck their drone up and stuff like that. So there is a lot of regulations and rules around it, and that's pretty much Australia wide.
On the CASA website, Civil Aviation Safety Authority in Australia. Hello to anyone listening internationally. You're going to have your own rules and regulations where you are.
CASA.gov.au, and we're not sponsored by CASA.
So the basic regulations that you need to know are, if you're taking photos that you intend to sell, then you have to be registered. You have to have an aviation reference number, an ARN, which I have. There are different rules and regulations depending on the weight of your drone. So, for example, if your drone is under 250 grams, you don't have to register it at all, unless you intend on taking photos to sell. Then you still have to get the ARN. And
those drones will be those little novelty drones from Dick Smiths and things like that. Unless you look, is there a DJI? There's a DJI small one, isn't there?
DJI Mini, which came out 12 months ago. There's now already been the Mini 2, and in the last 7 days, the Mini SE was released.
And how much do they weigh?
Have a guess.
150 grams.
No, it has to be under 250 grams. It weighs 249 grams.
Right.
Good job, DJI.
What about if you put a bigger memory card in it?
Yeah, well, this is with memory card in, apparently.
Oh, right,
okay. So they have thought of everything. The difference, though, with those smaller drones, unlike the Mavic 2, is they do have a smaller sensor inside them. They have a 13 megapixel sensor. Again, image quality isn't as good. But if you are looking to get into drone photography and you don't want to spend a couple of grand, you could get something like the Mini range, which I think kick off around the $800 mark Australian, which is pretty reasonable. As long as you're prepared to follow the rules, like Cam was just talking about, knock yourself out, go for it. There are plenty of places you can fly a drone. Unfortunately, a lot of those places are boring.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. All the good places are generally national parks, and
So things like you can't be. Now, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure you can't be within 5 kilometres of controlled airspace. So I tell you
what, I've actually got the page up here.
Attaboy. I knew
ready to go. Yeah, I knew one of us would do it. So it's 5.5 k's.
Thank you.
From your nearest controlled airport. Now, this is something that tricks people up a lot. Is that you could be driving around regional Victoria or New South Wales or Queensland, minding your own business, and go, "Hey, that's a cool shot. I might put my drone up." There could be an outback dirt runway. There could be a helipad from a farm. There could be heaps of different things. They're all considered controlled airspace. So you need to be careful of where you set your drone up. And I got caught out doing that down in Tassie once. I put my drone up out past a place called Medina, which is in between national parks. And I thought, beauty, up it goes. I go up and there's an airstrip, like just behind a forest, like a couple hundred meters away. I never knew it was there. And there was a little light plane on the actual runway. So I, crapped my pants, pulled the drone back down, the way you go. So you got to be very careful. There is an app. There is a couple of different apps you can get on your phone. Can I Fly Here is one of them, I think it is, where
that's right.
So you can prepare yourself with lots of tools before you go flying, and check where you can fly and things like that. But yeah, if you're flying within that airspace and you get caught doing it, you can expect a hefty fine.
Yes, you can. And this is why the reason for the ARN, the aviation reference number, which I believe, do you have to put that number on your drone as well?
I don't know if you do. I think they go by the drone serial number of the drone matches up to your reference time. But
that's right. Well, to get that number, I had to send them a copy of my driver's license and my passport.
Yeah, it's full on. So the rules for we'll go through them quickly because there's only about a few of them. The rules for recreational drone operators, for those who don't know. So you must not fly your drone higher than 120 meters above ground level. So no higher than 400 feet or 120 meters above ground level. I've had a entertaining discussion with a department down here in Tasmania about a photo that I did. Funnily enough, they ended up buying that photo off me later on, but they questioned me as to how high my drone was, and I referred back to them that they weren't aware of where I launched my drone from. So ground level, technically, you could take off from the top of a mountain if you wanted to. Yeah.
So are we talking above sea level, or are we talking launch level?
I think it says above ground level. So I would assume, and that'd be a grey area, but I would assume that would be from where you're launching your drone from.
Where the operator's operating from.
Yeah. You must keep your drone at least 30 meters away from other people. So you can't be buzzing your mates at the pool or down the beach and trying to be funny. You've got to keep it away from people, because if they come down on someone's head, you're probably not going to kill someone, but
the way to work that out is if you've got a person here, you go 15 meters that way, you go 15 meters that way, so 15 meters in all directions, and then that forms a cylinder that goes up above them as well.
Yep.
So that's like the radius you've got to keep away from people.
That's right. This is a good rule. You must only fly one drone at a time. I think that's a good one. So don't multi-skill with a couple of remote controls. You must also keep your drone. This is a very interesting one for those very small drones. You must keep your drone within a visual line of sight. So you must always be able to physically and visually see your drone. Now that little Mavic Mini, that's going to go 5 meters from you, and if you've got bad eyesight, you're not going to see it.
Yeah, that's right.
You need to keep that in mind. You can't fly above people or in populous areas. Now, I actually got myself a nice personalised letter from CASA once. I went up to New South Wales on a Land Rover celebration day with my old car I had, and they had this huge parade down the middle of this town, and it was hundreds of these beautiful old Land Rovers all lined up, and I had my drone up. And I followed the road and videoed the whole parade going down the road, and it was fine. And I just put it up on Facebook a few weeks later, and hey, have a look at this. And someone has reported me to CASA, and I got a phone call and a letter from a gentleman in CASA. Actually, really, really nice guy. He rang me up to not fine me, but to educate me. And I was expecting, this cowboy to sort of come up and have a go at me and here's your money that you need to pay. He was really, really good, and they handled it really, really well. So thank you to that guy if he ever listens. But he's the one that said, look, you can do this and that, commercial licensing, all that kind of stuff. And so you got to be careful. You can't fly over crowds, even if you think you're miles above them. Respect privacy. You can't record or photograph people without their consent. Again, this is a contentious one as well. If you're down the beach taking photos of whales, like you said, from a distance, and there's people on the beach, they recognize themselves, and they come into your store and say, hey, that's me in your photo there. You might be giving them some free prints, I reckon.
My response to that would be good luck proving it, for one, but also, and purely because, see, and this is the other thing that people get a little bit worked up about unnecessarily, and that is, oh, you're spying on me in my backyard, or you're spying on me in my on the beach. Yeah. Well, let me tell you, this drone here, the Mavic 2, has an equivalent, I think it's like a 17 millimeter wide angle lens.
Yeah.
I would need to have this drone about 5 meters away from you to be able to identify you properly.
Yeah, but I know that's my red hat I'm wearing.
Well, that's right. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's right. And like I've had some run-ins with real estate photographers. They're the worst, because they'll put their drone up over your house to get the shot of the house over the road, and they can't do that.
No, they can't.
They can't. So the other one was the 5.5 kilometer rule from the airport. You must also operate your drone that's not hazardous. So you can't be doing stunt flying around the streets of your neighborhood trying to be cool and impress people. And the other one is you must only fly during the day and not during night, fog, or cloud. You can get special permits, obviously, for that. If you need to. There's a couple more quickly. You can't fly your drone around areas affecting public safety, such as bushfires or emergencies going on, you can't get your drone up to have a look because that interferes with the potential aerial operations of firefighters and police.
That's the worst thing you could do.
Yeah.
That's awful. Why would you do that?
There was a situation, I don't know if it was down here or Victoria, when it was down the Gippsland fires last year. They had to ground all firefighting aircraft because there was people flying drones around. So if you're that person flying drone around bushfires, you're an idiot. Put it on the ground and stop doing it.
Yeah. And can I just quickly rewind 1 second?
Yep.
Not all real estate photographers are like that. No. I've got a couple of very good mates of mine who are real estate photographers, and I know they get really upset by the cowboys that are out there that give them a bad name. So I just wanted to backtrack on that. I know that they'll be listening. So sorry, majority real estate operators, the cowboys. No, but you're totally right. And I know for a fact in this area there are cowboy real estate photographers, but the ones that I know on a personal level, they do follow the rules.
a really quick story for those who know me pretty well. I don't mind I'm a bit of a smart ass when I need to be. The guy, I had the house over the road from us sold, and we had this guy just rock up with his drone and his real estate thing, had no high res vest on, had no landing pad, had no sign up, nothing, none of the restrictions, requirements you had. He's sitting over the house. My kids are at the back playing on the trampoline. And I went over to him, I said, mate, you shouldn't be over my property filming. And I've got kids out the back and you're stirring my dog up. Can you just put over the road? That's fine. And he said, oh, look, I'm allowed to fly here. And I said, well, you're not really. And he got a little bit cheeky. So what did I do? Because that's who I am. I got my drone out and put my drone right in front of the house he was photographing. And he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just making a point that if you can fly over my house and not follow regulations, I'll just fly in your shot. And he got the point really quick. But I rang his boss and said, look, I got no problem with him doing his job. Just, do it properly.
Follow the rules because it ruins it for everyone else.
If you're near a helicopter landing site or small aerodrome without a control tower, you can fly your drone within 5.5, but you must be aware of any manned aircraft and maneuver. So that was the same situation I had where I was talking about. I took off and there was a little runway that had a little light plane on it, and I brought it straight down. And the last rule is, we've already touched on it, was in regards to flying commercially, that you need to get the extra rules and follow if you're the remote pilot's license and insurances and things like that.
All that fun stuff.
So all those rules can be found at casa.com.au. If you just type in drone rules, you'll find out. So check them out.
So after all that, and it sounds like we're being a bit of a buzzkill when it comes to drones, we're not. What we're trying to do here is make sure that if you are wanting to get into drone photography, follow the rules and you'll have a lot of fun. You'll really enjoy it. You'll get some great photos and you won't stuff it up for us hardworking photographers who actually rely on these images for a living. Yeah,
and I think that's right. Like it's just common sense with everything, really. As much as I sort of rag them out, and the only reason I rag them out is just because the bad experiences I've had with other people doing the wrong thing, which has ruined it for everyone else. So they're amazing machines, incredible machines, and they're a lot of fun to play with. And like you said, they're great. You can put them up, get some unreal shots, but just follow the rules. Everyone gets along, everyone's happy, and everyone starts getting really, really cool drone shots.
Yeah. So as a little, the process I go to when I'm using my drone is always check that the coast is clear. And by that, I mean, if you can hear a propeller, so any like a light aircraft in the area, don't launch. If you're already in the air and you hear a propeller, get your drone down to 5 meters off the ground. They're just rules that I follow. I was out shooting the Barwon Heads bridges on another morning with my drone. I had it launched, but luckily it was quite low. And out of nowhere, this fixed-wing aircraft came over the top of me, and he would not have been more than 60 meters off the ground. And it frightened me. I was like, wow. So not all drone pilots are cowboys either. So
that's right.
It'd just be horrible to think that you've been responsible for hitting a light aircraft. I mean, it'd be be awful.
Yeah, it's not worth the risk, that's for sure.
No, it's definitely not. And the other thing is, for me, I guess this is where I'm lucky living where I live as well, is I've got a massive coastline. Now, I'm allowed to fly my drone off the coast. That's totally fine. I'm not above people. I'm not above buildings or anything like that. And that's actually where I get a lot of my photos, is just offshore. and I was saying this to Cam off camera before we came on air, is I think I need to get a T-shirt that just answers all the questions, because every time I've launched my drone, and it's just human nature, people are curious about them. They want to come and talk to you and ask questions.
Yeah.
And the big questions are the range on the drone. The Mavic 2 Pro, 7 kilometers, which is outrageous. But of course, let's look back at the rules.
Have you pushed it to 7 kilometers?
Of course I haven't, because I couldn't see it at 7 kilometers away. So always keeping it in line of sight. So I suppose I'd have to have a look. But if you happen to know someone who had a farm that was 7 kilometers of private property, I would assume you could do it there.
Yeah.
So could test it out there. But I'd freak out too much if I lost sight of my drone anyway.
Yeah.
7 kilometers is the range. The battery life on the Mavic 2 Pro is, I can push it to 30 minutes comfortably on one battery. So I always carry a couple of batteries anyway, so I can bang a new one in. The controller that we use, which, do you reckon if I was quick, I could find my controller and show you?
You could just watch your mic on your jacket there, doesn't get ripped off.
Well, you know what? Here it is. It's over here charging.
It's not in Fed Square. It's in Young and Jackson.
It's over here. I have it. So this is a little controller.
Yeah.
And this little part on the bottom folds down, and my phone fits right in here.
Yeah.
So
that's about the size of like a mobile phone, isn't it? Like,
it is. Yep.
It's not much bigger.
Not much bigger. So then I've got full control, so you can see with the joysticks on the front there.
Yep.
Full control. I've got a readout on here that shows me my battery life and all that sort of stuff. And then the actual image goes on my phone screen down here.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. You can see it's all point of view, so you can actually see exactly what the drone can see at all times, which I really enjoy, because on the very rare occasion where I've looked up and lost sight of my drone, you just look straight at the screen and you can see yourself, and you reorientate yourself. So that works really well.
We'll finish up on the drones. I'll give you a quick story where I had one of those moments where I'm like, oh my God, I have just lost a $4,000 drone in the Derwent River. There was the QE2, I think, whatever big boat it is, docked into Hobart. And I thought it'd be really cool because it goes out the Derwent River, it takes a while to get out into the ocean. I thought, what if I go down river a bit, and it's only a few hundred meters off coast, I'll put my drone up and get a shot of the boat from above. That'd be really cool. So I got it all set up. There was people everywhere along the foreshores. So I went down further, flew up, got this Mavic, not the Mavic, the Inspire, flew out there, and I'm flying along, and I was looking down at this boat, and you could see the people in the pool and going down the water slide and all the deck chairs. And this is incredible. And then all of a sudden, my drone just went black. And I went, crap, what is going on here? I could see it because it wasn't that far away. All the controls, I'm like, nothing's working. I'm like, this is not good. Then the controller just shut down. I'm like, oh, shit, what's going on? And so anyway, all of this, I lost sight of it. It just kept going and disappeared. Anyway, I'd literally ridden it off. I'm like, that's done. It's gone. Anyway, all of a sudden I look up and here's this drone making its way back down to the takeoff point. So it got back, it landed, it sent itself back home. I got home, I pulled the memory card out and thought, I'll check the photos I got of this big boat. And they were just like these electronic scrambled images.
Oh, okay.
So I couldn't figure out what it was. But what happens is any big boats that come into Hobart here, they have a pilot boat that drives them out. And as soon as the pilot driver gets back into his little pilot boat, the big boats turn their radar systems on. And the radar system completely scrambled my drone and completely scrambled all the files, everything. I had all these amazing photos, and it took me weeks to try and reconstruct these photos to make them look anywhere like what they were meant to. And maybe we can put one of them up on the screen if I find one. But and my mate, a friend of mine who flies drones as well, he goes, oh, that'll be the radar. They always turn it on at that point. He goes, you don't have your drone near them there. Okay. Oops.
we learned that one.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a tip for you. Don't fly around the QE2 when it turns its radar.
And everyone's got a great drone story. Anyone who's owned a drone has got a great drone story. My Phantom 4, my beloved Phantom 4 Pro, I actually ended up selling it secondhand to a customer friend of mine, Adrian, hello, if you're listening, who runs a sheep property out in Western Victoria. Adrian loved the idea of having a drone, so he got hold of this one, and he decided he was burning off some stubble in his paddock, so he decided to get some aerial footage. So he got the fire, all safely done, everything, all all under control. Launches the drone, starts filming the burning paddock from a good 100 feet in the air. All of a sudden, all you can see on the screen is just he can see the ground in the sky, then the ground in the sky, then the ground in the sky, and it hits the ground. His drone was taken out by a wedge-tail eagle.
Yeah.
Which is quite common apparently. So that's another reason why. But here's the kicker: the drone crashes. He works out where it is. It's right in the line of the fire, and it got burnt by the fire.
Really? That eagle, I think, won that fight.
Yeah. He sent me a photo of this sad melted plastic thing. It was a case of if he didn't laugh, he'd cry. But birds of prey don't like drones.
No, and that's one of the if you want to fly down here in Tasmania, this is one of the extras on top of your permit. You also need to have a birds of prey spotter with you, supplied by parks, not just your mate, someone who is trained in spotting birds of prey. And same with you with the whales as well. You can't go buzzing whales and getting close to them and stuff like that. So there is lots of rules. It's a topic we could go on all night about, but I would encourage people strongly to go check out CAS's website, know your rules, know your regulations, know how it all works, cover your backside. But in the meantime, have fun, get some really cool photos, and just do it properly and don't ruin the fun for everyone.
100%. And now if you've got any questions about drones, drop us a comment below. We will answer them in a future episode or reply via messenger or email or
even a cool
drone
story, even another drone story. Chuck them in the comments, and we all love a drone story.
We like all photography stories, but particularly drone stories because they generally are quite hilarious.
They end in disaster.
Now, Cameron, you've got some news about the Beaker Street Photography Award down there in Tassie, which we touched on a couple of episodes ago.
I jumped the gun a bit a couple of weeks ago saying I'll announce the winner, but I couldn't. But we have announced the winner. So the Beaker Street Photography Award is part of the Beaker Street Science Festival, which is still currently happening down here in Tasmania. It's a whole heap of different little road trips and places all around, scattered around Tasmania. You can go and tap into these scientists about all the different things that are going on. It's really quite cool. I had to go through over 100 entries, and it was super, super hard. And I had a different winner for about a week or two. Like every day I was looking at it, getting different winners. But in the end, I picked an image that was taken by a gentleman named Milson Barnard. And it's called the Polyzoasteria. Let's say that again. Polyzoasteria ingena, which is like a dung beetle, I think, or some sort of beetle that has only just been discovered or announced. And it's actually a microscopic shot with over 50 stacked images put together. We'll flash that on the screen now for guys watching at home, and we'll put a link in the show notes if you want to go check out all the winning entries. But we had to announce that the other day. So Milson got this amazing shot, and it's hard to describe, but it's just got this amazing palette of color. It's got some incredible detail on the shell of this beetle. It's got some pretty cool features on the head area and stuff like that. But yeah, really cool. So it was good to announce that. Like I said, there was so many good entries this year. It made my job super, super hard, which is good. But yeah, so congratulations to him. So we can announce that now. We'll put that on the screen, and you can go check it out in the show notes.
Well done. And as I think we were looking at these images in an earlier podcast, and there was some tough choices there. Well, we probably did it off air actually, but it was very, very very hard. I don't envy anyone who had to judge that competition, but good choice for the winner for sure. Yeah,
it's a bit different, and it's definitely a scientific photograph, which fitted the brief perfectly. I think it was just what really got me was the detail and the color of it. It's just got this really bronzy sort of copper and green emerald sort of shell to it. Again, you can check the photo out and give us some feedback on what you think, and maybe you can put down who you thought should have won if I was wrong.
It's very, very well done. Now, while we're on the topic of competitions, we have our Sunrise comp running from episode 9. Yeah. You have until August the 20th. So this podcast is going to go out on Friday the 13th. So you will have a week after that to get your entry in. Cam and I are going to choose what we think is the nicest sunrise photo that was taken in the month of August. Well, it has to be taken between those podcasts.
Oh, look, I think I'm happy that if it's been taken this month. I think let's not get too hard.
You're very lenient all of a sudden. I like it.
Well, we're getting entries. There's a couple of entries already coming through. Yeah, it's great. Look how surprised you are. We are.
I know. Oh, wow.
Oh wow, people are actually playing along.
I shouldn't be surprised, but
no, we've got the best listeners in the world.
We have. I've already seen a couple of beauties. Speaking of sunrises, my goodness, at the moment the sunrises, particularly here in Ocean Grove, are amazing.
Yeah, we're sending them up from here.
Yes, definitely. And I have no doubt that I will watch every sunrise while drinking my coffee and looking at my land room window.
Beautiful.
Got to get amongst it. Yeah. Dear Cam is back for another week.
Back with a vengeance, I hear.
It is. So you might want to charge your glasses because this is going to take a minute to read this one out, but that's fine. That's okay. Right. We're happy.
Who's this one? Who's this one from? Do we know this person, or is it?
This is from our friend David in Ararat.
I know David in Ararat. Hello, David in Ararat.
Hello, David. He's on the edge of his seat now. He's peaking. He's like, my dear Cam question's going to get on the air.
I'm peaking too because I know, I have a feeling it's going to be a curveball-y one that I'm going to have to use my brain for. It won't be straightforward.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Dear Cam, I have walked 2 kilometres to this spot. I am on a cliff edge on a very narrow shelf with my tripod fully extended, including the centre arm. On top is a nice heavy 5D. Hello, Canon users. With a couple of kilos. Not sponsored by Canon. With a couple of kilos, 70 to 200 f2.8 non-stabilized lens mounted on the lens mount.
Right here.
Okay. Following Cam's CAT process in these dark and stormy conditions, the exposure needs to be 3 seconds. The composition is perfect. There is a roaring, blustery gale coming at me at 45 degrees from the valley side. Think Cradle Mountain for BFOP last year, only worse. Blocking the wind from the tripod would find me over the edge of the cliff and is not an option. What other options do I have to stabilize this setup to get my, in inverted commas, photo of the year? P.S. Try to answer without changing the 3-second exposure first. Now, David, I think this is what we call in the industry taking the piss, but let's hand it over to Cam and see what he comes up with.
Well, thank you, David. I was actually expecting something a bit more tricky to answer, to be honest. I was expecting a bit more out of you. All right. I think I've got all that. So you're on a cliff, your tripod's at its full extension, it's blowing its bum off. You've got you've got a really heavy lens on top. You want to keep 3 seconds, but you want to make sure that it's stable. I guess the underlying thing is how do I stabilize this tripod and camera without falling to my death or doing anything different? A couple of things I would say with that, and this can be a bit of a common thing where you get to a location and it is blowing an absolute gale. And it's funny, and this is actually no fluke at all, but I took a photo out there yesterday. I went out to the southwest of Tassie and I got this nice shot of a sunset, but it was blowing a gale where I went further down the road to take some more shots. And I stood behind my car. I moved my car and made a windbreak so I could set my tripod up behind the car and get the same angle. Clearly, you can't put a car on top of a cliff face. So in this situation, I'd be doing one or two things. I'd be reducing, I guess, the overall wind sail of my camera gear. So I'd be trying to maybe say, well, if you can minimize your tripod down to its smallest area and get down a bit lower and try and match the profile of the cliff a bit more so the wind doesn't get you. The other option is you could also, some of the tripods on their center columns have a little bit of a hook where you can actually hang your camera bag as like an anchor, it's like a sandbag underneath the middle of your tripod so you can weigh it down even further. So you can do something like that. If I've been in situations where you lie down flat on the cliff and hand hold 3 seconds. If you're using Olympus, you probably get away with that, but you're not. You're using Canon, so that's a shame. So to me, I think two options would be try and weigh that tripod down with a center column bag or weight, or even rocks around the legs of your tripods to weigh it down, or reduce the overall profile of your tripod and camera sticking up in the wind. If you can get a bit lower safely and shoot from a lower angle. Look, you could try and change around things. Like I said, you don't want to change the 3 seconds, so you can't be changing apertures and ISOs and things like that, because that's going to ultimately change your shutter speed as well. So I would be trying to weigh that center column down or reduce your overall profile on that wind swept cliff would be my my answer. And knowing David, what's going to be doing his head in is that he's only got the one composition to play with. He can't run around and get 600 different compositions up and down the cliff. He has to work on that one composition. So that alone, David, should be enough to get you excited. But how would you handle that, Brendan? Because that's a one-off situation.
Absolute no-brainer. This is the easiest question you've ever got. I would go to the pub.
Well, that's the other option. Pack up and go home.
Just give up. That's all too hard, David. No, if I was in that situation, which I wouldn't be, but if I was, the little thing that you gave away there was it's a 70 to 200 f2.8 lens. Don't go to 200, because if you're at 200, a millimeter of movement at this end is like an earthquake at that end. I would pull back to 70. You are shooting with a 5D. Let's assume it's a 5D Mark IV, so you've got 1 billion pixels to play with. So zoom it out so that you're not picking up as much detail necessarily directly through the lens, but you could zoom and crop later. And yes, you may not get exactly the same composition. There will be a difference in lens compression as well. However, it will give you more of a chance to get a stabilized image by shooting at the 70 end rather than the 200 end. That's about all I could come up with, but it's a very good question. I challenge anyone to give a deer cam harder than that, because that's quite a tricky one.
It is a tricky one, and what you said is good. And that rule of thumb is to try and get your shutter speed to match your focal length, to try and handhold things. It's a bit different on a tripod, but yeah, you could definitely shoot at 70, a bit wider. But the thing is, it's still got to be 3-second exposure, so you got to somehow manage that 3 seconds. So yeah, I like. The more I think about it, I'm liking the pub option better.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
We'll meet you there, David. Your shout.
That's right. Exactly. I was going to say, your shout, Dave. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So thank you for that deer cam question. If you've got a deer cam question, please leave it below. Email it to us. Send it to us via courier pigeon or drone, whatever you want to do. Now we're getting close to wrap up time on this week's podcast. My goodness, how the time flies in these things.
They do.
What have you been up to this week, Cam? What do you got coming up? Anything you need to mention? Business as usual for you?
Business as usual for me. Not much going on this week. Like I said, I went for a bit of a drive out to the southwest last night. I had a feeling there might be some good sunsets happening out there, a bit like you having the sunrises. We've been getting some pretty gnarly sunsets down here. So I got a shot that I was pretty happy with, which will flash on the screen probably now, I reckon, Brendan's.
It's there.
It's there. This was one of those situations where it was a long lens and it was very windy. I sort of stood next to a tree and got a bit more shelter that way. And coming up, I've got a few things coming up. I've got a waterfall and mountain day for anyone in Tasmania. If you want to come along to the Mount Field and Southwest National Parks on the 21st of August, we're going to go out and play. There's waterfalls galore and views like you just saw pop up on the screen. We'll go down this exact same road that this photo's taken and try and get some afternoon shots of the mountains and the lakes and the waterfalls. And also my Tarkine workshop at the end of the month, the 27th. Got a couple of spots left. If anyone in Tasmania wants to come along, hit me up. Come and explore one of the most incredible regions in Australia with yours truly. How about you?
Fantastic.
What's going on
Fantastic. My hunt for a Pentax K1000 has taken a turn.
A good or bad turn?
For the good, I just this evening received a message and got very excited that a customer of mine may know where a K1000 is, knows that it is a one owner K1000 as well.
Beautiful.
And is in, well, as far as he knows, it's in pretty good nick. So I'm going to keep you posted on that. I've got him doing the research. Unfortunately, the catch is it's in Melbourne, which is in lockdown. So anyway, we'll see.
Do you think you'll have one by next episode?
No, I don't. I don't actually think I will.
I reckon you might.
Okay, all right.
I reckon the K1000 guides might shine on you.
Okay,
and that person might be able to get it for you.
All right. Well, we'll find out.
Who knows?
The other thing that I think we might talk more about this next week, because we're up against time here, is I'm in the market for a new camera now, not a K1000 film camera. I mean a new camera. It's time that I brought myself into the 21st century and got off APS-C and started shooting perhaps full frame.
You know
maybe.
what you're like. You're like the mechanic who works on Ferraris but drives a little VW Beetle. Yep. You're the guy that works in the camera store but doesn't have the latest, greatest cameras going around. I love it.
And that, I think that speaks more to the old adage of it's not what you got, it's how you use it.
Yeah.
However, if you listen to the podcast last week, you will learn that one of my cameras bit the dust. Look, it's just made me realize more and more that I probably need to upgrade. It's time. So we shall debate next week what camera or cameras or what lens and lenses and all that sort of stuff. So if you got any advice for me, leave a comment below.
I would say if you've got this far listening, put down some options for Brendan to have a look. We'll have a look throughout the week, and next episode we're going to dedicate an episode to getting you a new camera.
We should sneak in little Easter eggs at the very end of all these podcasts and
to see if people are listening.
Exactly right. And just hey, if you leave a comment below with a certain phrase, we'll send you a free something.
We'll send you a free camera if you
stop right there.
Stop right there. We're not sponsored by anyone.
Well,
that's interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's get you a new camera.
Yeah. Let's find Brendan a K1000, which I'll probably never use, but I just want to own one.
Yeah.
Is that sad? I don't know.
No, it's not. It's like the OM1 Olympus. I've got the old school Olympus. Yep. I'd never use it, but they just made the cameras back then just look cool. Oh,
there's something about them. I mean, I just like looking at them. I like clicking the, winding them on and clicking the. It's just it's so tactile. It's beautiful. I now have a new appreciation for people who like vinyl records.
Yes.
We all know they don't sound as good. Come on, they just don't. But they have a different sound.
It's so funny. We were talking to off air before, and I was saying how I did another Zoom call today with a bunch of primary school kids learning about the Tarkine region here in Tassie. And one of the questions the kids came up to me and said, "What's your favorite camera and why?" And I said, "My favorite camera is probably my Olympus film camera." And we had that exact same conversation with a bunch of 8-year-olds about why vinyl is better than digital.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't sound better. It's hard to explain. But
and I was going to say, one of the kids probably said, "My dad likes vinyl," but the fact is he probably said, "My granddad likes vinyl."
Yeah. My late granddad liked vinyl.
That's what it's like now. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But anyway, that has been episode 10 of the Down South Photo Show. Thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed yourself this evening, Cam.
I have. Thank you, everyone, for listening. It's been a good topic. Drones are a bit of a contentious topic for most people, so hopefully people got some things out of there. And if anything, take away just to use your common sense. Looking forward to next episode. Looking forward to getting you a new camera. And again, thanks to everyone for subscribing. Make sure you click the button, ring the bell. And also on the podcast, make sure you sign up to the show. We're 150 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which is incredible. I'm not sure how the podcast channels are going, but
I can update us all next week on that. Yeah,
it's increasing and we're loving it. We're enjoying it. Don't forget the sunrise competition as well. Get onto that. It's been good. Thank you.
Oh, this has been brilliant. This is Cam, the outro man.
Yeah, brilliant. Just an outro.
It's fantastic.
I know. I'm getting better.
All right, everyone. We'll talk to you next week. Over and out. Cheers now.
Ciao.
Bye.